man and what is a woman. You probably saw Harry Styles on the cover of Vogue wearing a dress, and Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro and some other people called it out and said, look, this is making masculinity a laughingstock. This is not good for society. And leftists absolutely freaked out and said, yes, it is good for society, without thinking at all what happens to society when we allow the mass sissification of men. Now, am I personally affected by what Harry Styles wears? Do I want to outlaw him deciding what he wears? No, I am not advocating for that at all. In fact, there have been several photo shoots of men wearing dresses. I think it was 20 to 25 years ago that Brad Pitt was wearing a dress on the cover of some magazine. So going beyond what Harry Styles is wearing on the cover of Vogue, because I don't really care, I do think, obviously, that this disintegration of the natural biological definitions of male and female are going to have a terrible effect, not just on individuals and especially children, who are always the most vulnerable to left-wing ideology, especially via teachers' unions and left-wing organizations that target them, as well as ignorant and apathetic parents, but also to society as a whole. Here's the truth, and we see this reiterated in God's word. We see this reiterated throughout history. This is just the truth, that society needs two things to just survive. I'm not even talking about thriving, just survive. You need women to have babies, and you need men to be strong. You need them to be able to defend and provide. Not all women have to have babies for society to survive. Not all women are going to have babies because God calls a lot of people to be single. God doesn't allow some people to have babies, but in order for societies to just survive, to carry on to the next generation, those two things have to exist. A large number of women have to have babies, or a good number of women have to have a lot of babies, and men have to be able to defend and to provide and to protect not just their families and communities, but our nation as a whole. They have to be able to lead. If we don't have those two things, then we're toast, just factually as a nation. And again, I'm not even talking about thriving as a nation, which I think is the requirement of that is actually having proper roles and a proper view of femininity and masculinity. But women have to have babies, men have to be strong, they have to protect, and there's some margin there. There's some room for radical feminists to rail against that in a surviving society. There's some room for some sissy men in a surviving society. Not all men and women need to be the same and to have the same roles and responsibilities in order for society to survive. But in order for us to survive and thrive, there have to be enough women who embrace femininity in that way, and there have to be enough men to embrace masculinity in that way. Are we in danger of losing that plurality that is necessary for a society to survive? Maybe. I do think that there are powers that be, as we talked about on Friday, through radical sex education and the leftism that seeks to disintegrate all that is good, including the nuclear family, including the gender dichotomy, including the traditional role of male and female. I do think that they are at work to break all of those things down, to make people isolated, to make people dumb, to make people sexually confused and messed up and mentally unwell and unstable, in order to create an easy to control proletariat.